Every day, officers of Youth and Community Services in Newcastle are paying out thousands of dollars to the desperate. In fact, under the Special Cash Assistance Scheme, they are paying thousands more than ever before. In the last 3 months, more than double the usual rate. The money is provided to those who can't pay rent, electricity bills, and for clothing and even basic foodstuffs. It is a stark indication, say Youth and Community Services, that the numbers of poor are on the rise. Welfare agencies such as St Vincent de Paul confirm the view.
In the last 12 months, I would say the heaviest I've seen here for 15 years for our demand for food, especially for furniture and for clothing. The demand's so heavy that we're getting very short on things. We've hardly got a bed left in the place, or a table, or a washing machine.
Two causes for the new poverty are repeatedly found: unemployment and desertion of the breadwinner from a family, often preceded by unemployment. In these situations, simply keeping a roof over family heads becomes the prime aim of agencies. Meanwhile, the Smith family can barely supply enough food to the needy, citing an increase in demand of 56%. Almost as soon as the food is donated, it is distributed. Welfare services are stretched and unemployment is putting huge strains on the family unit. That issue is concerning a conference of the Anglican Mothers Union in Morpeth. Guest speaker today was Reverend Alan Nichols, Director of a mission in Melbourne.
There are two things that the church is looking at and that this conference is looking at. One is joining with other people such as the Australian Council of Social Service and other welfare bodies in campaigning for a better social security system that has a high level of payments to get people out of the poverty traps, and that is a simpler system for people to understand so they know what their rights are. In an affluent country like Australia, it is appalling that so many people are living in poverty. It should not be necessary.
The general consensus of welfare agencies is that the ranks of the needy are growing primarily because of unemployment. That perhaps is not surprising. However, the agencies feel strongly that the public needs to know more about poverty so that something can be done.
Dungog Hospital, like most country hospitals, faces major cuts or changes under the Health Department's review. The change, which is strongly opposed at Dungog, is the closure of the maternity section and the reduction in the number of hospital beds. The only bright note is that there's to be more nursing beds provided, but not enough according to the authorities. These issues affecting Dungog Hospital were thrashed out last night, and residents gave their full support to the hospital's move to try and push for a better deal. The residents have also formed a deputation which will seek talks with the regional office.
These are sounds from space, noises created 50,000 kilometres above the Earth. They are the raw material of a research project by Professor Brian Fraser at Newcastle University, who has just received a federal grant of $43,000. Money has been provided to 37 university projects through 2 government bodies. Professor Fraser's grant will finance the continued running of 6 ground stations throughout Australia and the Antarctic that monitor hydromagnetic radio waves in the ionosphere. Learning about those waves is important because of their effect on man-made electronics, such as power grid systems. Like others at the university, Professor Fraser is pleased with research funding this year, which in total is 27% up on 1982. The bulk, about $1 million, has gone to medical research, but as Professor Jeffrey Kellerman explains, other faculties have been surprisingly well funded.
The funds available for non-medical research in this country are rather more limited than for medical research, and the $500,000 which has been received from the Australian Research Grants scheme is a very significant proportion of the amount available in Australia. It's about 3%, I think, of the total amount available, and there are, after all, 19 universities to compete and large numbers of faculties, and I think it's a very creditable performance.
Overall, hospitals in this region will receive $131.25 million. That's only a slight growth in real monetary terms, but according to Health Minister Brereton, it's a significantly greater allocation than for many other areas of the state. But
speaking for the Royal
enough.
Newcastle Hospital, Chief Executive Dr. Elwyn Currow said the increases are not good enough. The hospital finds itself $1.4 million short of what's required, and only certain further economies can be made.
Well, we would see the situation as being a very serious one indeed. We have lived within our budget, apart from the 80-81 year, which, as you know, we overspent. But by the same token, our living within the budget since then has only been at the expense of cutting services, closing beds and effecting very great economies. While the economies are fair enough, we certainly aren't out to restrict services or close beds, and we certainly want to maintain the services that we're presently providing.
So the push for more funds will continue.
So obviously we really have to go on doing our level best to make sure that we get adequate funding for the hospitals of the city and the region.
Today, the Newcastle Chamber of Commerce and Industry also entered the ring. It sees a new hospital at Rankin Park as a top priority. President of the Chamber, Mr. Peter Evans.
Well, what the Chamber would like to do is to see the implementation of the Olsen report. We would like to see the Rankin Park development proceed, that absolute concrete plans be made for Rankin Park to proceed as soon as possible, so that we know that the errors of the past won't continue into the future.
On November the 28th, some of the 84 people arrested in the Newcastle West End on the weekend will appear before the Newcastle Court of Petty Sessions charged with a variety of offences. These include driving with prescribed concentration of alcohol, being drunk and disorderly, and drug offences. It is indicative of a phenomenon throughout the region, according to social workers. While police have promised more blitzes of the West End if enough complaints are received, Mr. Bill Plazier of the Newcastle Youth Service says society must treat the causes and not just the symptoms of the problem. I asked him what he thought those causes are.
A lot of it, I think, has to do with low self-esteem, their feeling of not belonging somewhere, their feelings of not fitting into the world. Part of that's to do with unemployment, that they've lost their own status. A lot of things are still tied in our community to status and jobs, and right now the jobs are not there, so that they lose even that. Quite a bit of it's to do with just learning. It's enjoyment.
And so are they turning to drugs more often?
Yeah, it's been turning to drugs and alcohol. Alcohol in particular, for a long period of time, it's been increasing, and I think that increase is going to go on for a long period of time. Particularly because I think it's being sold as the only way to cope, as the only way to have fun, the only way to survive in the world. Now, as long as that's being taught, I think it's going to go on.
Has been involved in rheumatism study and treatment for 20 years. He's written several books and has established a huge computer data bank on the subject at the Stanford University School of Medicine.
Arthritis is really a whole group of diseases, probably 150 different diseases, and it ranges from rheumatoid arthritis to osteoarthritis to gout, every one different and every patient different.
Are we getting any closer to being able to prevent them or treat them?
Well, we're here at a meeting in Newcastle with scientists and physicians from all over Australia and indeed from all over the world, and we're going through a number of advances. We've been very fortunate and much more progress is on the way. We can now replace wounded joints that we couldn't do a few years ago. We had major kinds of arthritis such as gout, which we can now almost totally control, or acute rheumatic fever, which has now gotten very, very uncommon. We have ways of approaching some of the sexually transmitted forms of arthritis. And the kinds of arthritis, lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, which have absorbed so much of our attention, are becoming less serious diseases. We're now learning how to slow them down, although we're still searching for actual cures.
But how can someone avoid arthritis? Is it possible to avoid it?
Well, the kind of arthritis that goes with getting older, the kind of arthritis we call degenerative arthritis or osteoarthritis, can indeed be slowed. And there are three major principles for slowing it. We say that you ought to watch your weight, because excessive weight particularly accelerates arthritis of the knees and of the hips. We say protect your joints. Don't let them get injured, because injured joints develop arthritis more. And we say keep fit generally, because you want strong bones and strong ligaments around your joints in order to protect them through life.
The Walden Brickyard site was a political issue. Both the ALP and the Citizens Group put forward notices of motion which basically said the same thing: no garbage dump on the former Brickyard site. It was the motion put forward by the Citizens Group, Alderman Campbell, which was carried, and it dismissed any earlier decisions concerning the future use of the Wallsend site as a garbage disposal area. The ALP, at the initiative of Alderman Parker, tried to have included in that decision a clause which would see the Brickyard site converted to parkland. The Citizens Group did not agree. It believes the future of the Wallsend Brickyard site should be decided by the residents. The town clerk, Mr Barry Lewis, was critical of the council's move, considering that back in 1978 the council instructed him to raise a loan for the purpose of acquiring the Brickyard site for a garbage disposal area. In a report to the meeting, he said that the council was making a decision on an emotional basis and not on fact. He said the council was leaving itself open to criticism. Alderman Campbell believes Mr Lewis is right in calling it an emotional issue, but he has a different interpretation.
The town clerk is correct when he says that there's a degree of emotion about it. The emotion actually is that the residents don't want their front yards to be turned into a garbage dump. And I think anyone's got the right to be emotional about a thing like that. What the residents have now succeeded in doing is having that particular decision by council reversed. So therefore it is a victory for them.
Well, the Wallsend Brickyard site won't go ahead. The Shortland Swamps is set to be saved. Where's the next garbage dump site going to go?
Aha, the $64 question. It's going to be a very interesting one, that, but it certainly is a different issue and a separate issue from what we're discussing tonight. And I would think that council will have to really put its thinking cap on collectively and come up with a site that is acceptable to the residents, because after all, if Wallsend isn't acceptable to the residents, and there will be a cost factor involved in the council, we have to find something else and find it pretty soon.
Shift changes at the nearby Stockton Borehole Colliery. In the past, traffic congestion has meant major delays. It's hoped the new roundabout, the first for Lake Macquarie, will solve the problem. All traffic must drive clockwise around a central circular traffic island. Workmen from the Shortland County Council are now working on the foundations for a 25-metre lighting mast. The first to be installed by the County Council, it'll cost about $30,000. It will hold 4 600-watt lamps, which will light up the night sky around the roundabout. Having a single lighting mast reduces roadside hazards. The mast should be in position within 3 weeks, by which time the finishing touches to the roundabout should also be complete. The centre was opened in 1977 and since then has become well known throughout Australia for its work with developmentally delayed children. That means children with speech problems, numeracy problems or social and emotional disorders. The centre is funded primarily by the state government through the Department of Youth and Community Services. More than 80 children of all ages attend the centre during the week. 8 direct service programs are provided, from baby stimulation to bridging for severely handicapped students and parent counselling. Community awareness is very important to the staff at the Special Education Centre. and it's hoped today's open day went a step further in familiarising the people of Newcastle with the centre's work.
Newcastle might have a tough exterior, but it's got a soft heart where ballet is concerned, and it's produced some very good dancers. If you want proof of that, it's at the Civic Theatre right now, where the Sydney City Ballet is presenting a short season. Associated with the company is Marilyn Jones, who's probably Newcastle's most famous ballet export. There's Samantha Atkinson, a Newcastle dancer who's now a member of the company, and as well a group of Newcastle ballet students was selected to support the company. The season ends on Saturday, and it contains two romantic ballets, Coppelia and Giselle. After the opening performance of Coppelia, I spoke to some young audience members. What did you think of the ballet?
Wow, it was really good.
And you're both ballet students, are you?
Yes.
And what did you think of the standard of the company?
I thought it was quite good.
Did you? And was some of your friends dancing in the chorus?
Yes, we were in it too.
You were in it too. You've got undressed quickly.
Yeah, we were in the first day.
Did you enjoy being with some professionals?
Yes, it was really good.
Good morning everyone and welcome. Well, if you're a Bond follower, if I can express it in those terms, there is no doubt that real estate is a very important priority as far as I'm concerned, not only in the investment sense but also in the personal sense. And I'll take you back about 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months ago when I suggested, and I include your area, let there be no misunderstandings about that, that then was a great time to be looking at the real estate markets of Australia, because in my view the real estate markets to all intents and purposes had bottomed and were starting to move up. I still hold to that view, and again let me take you back to the new First Homeowners Assistance Scheme, which came into operation as from October the 1st, 1983. And this is the scheme I am referring to. Let me say here and now, I don't normally talk politics, but I do commend the federal government for the way this package has been put together. Unlike former schemes, there is no qualifying period. Sure, there is an income test, but that's not unreasonable. And depending upon one's family situation, you will be entitled to grants, gifts, call them what you will, to the value of up to $7,000. I repeat, depending upon one's family situation, you'll be entitled to grants, gifts, etc. of up to, and they're tax-free, let me add, of up to $7,000. By gee, I wish that sort of incentive was around when we bought our first home. Now for information, and this you're seeing right now, the information kit issued by the government, you can go to your bank, you can go to your building society, you can go to your credit union, you can go to your real estate agent, and hopefully you can go to your builder. But I'm saying to you here and now, if you're buying your first home, make sure you get the information as quickly as possible, because the money will be paid almost immediately, and that could make the difference between buying now or waiting another 3 or 6 months. And with values on the way up, I'd be buying now. I'll see you next Monday.
A record 1,934,309 tonnes of coal was loaded last month by Newcastle's 2 coal loaders. A graphic demonstration of what can be achieved when everything goes to plan. But the record resulted in part from efforts to catch up on a backlog caused by industrial disputes, mainly with the SRA earlier in the year. And at this stage, the port is still some 2 million tonnes behind the expected 1983 exports. Loading 2 million tonnes a month is close to the port's ultimate capacity, but early next year that will change with the commissioning of the Kooragang coal loader, which is rapidly taking shape. Some testing of the stacker and the conveyor belt system has begun, and the first shipment is due for April. The new loader will immediately add 6 million tonnes a year capacity to the port. So far its construction has cost $190 million, with a further $50 million committed. But the project is actually under budget and right on time.
This is Miss Leela Tanner. At age 58, she's decided to retire after nursing in Newcastle for the past 40 years. Leela started at Hillcrest Hospital and worked there as a midwife for 22 years. The last 12 years of her nursing career were spent at Western Suburbs. On a busy day, Leela remembers assisting with as many as 12 births in one day. And she's seen many changes. Natural childbirth has become more popular, and women are staying in hospital for a much shorter time after the birth. All her life, Leela has lived in this neat house in Turnbull Street, Merewether, and is a well-known local identity. Now she cares for her 90-year-old father and their vegetable garden.
Has it been a rewarding career?
Very rewarding. I've enjoyed it very much.
You're not married?
No, I've never married.
And you've never had any children?
No children, no. Only lots of babies. Lots of godchildren I've got, quite a big family of godchildren, and lots of other people's children, other people's babies. But it's been wonderful, and I'm going to miss it very much, but never mind. It has to come to an end sometime.